Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show. I'm your host, Greg Bennett, and today I'm joined in the studio by one of the most successful middle distance triathletes on the planet, Sam Appleton. In this episode, Sam is an open book. He shares the ups and downs of being a professional athlete with just absolute honesty and vulnerability. We have some fun with the rapid fire questions, and Sam describes his intent for the 2022 season. I personally thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Now, a little bit of housekeeping before we go on. Thank you again so much for listening to this show. It is growing and I really appreciate it. If you want to support the show, you can do so by just sharing it on your social platforms. It's been really remarkable how many of you have been willing to do that. I thank you so much for that. Or you can support the show's partners, Athletic Brewing, Athletic Greens, and of course, Form Swim Goggles. You can't go wrong with those. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy this one as much as I do. And remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. A quick mention of the show's partners. These are all great companies and products that I use daily. If you want to support the show, you'd be doing me a massive favor by supporting these brands. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Brewing. Anyone will tell you that I'm someone who loves to have a beer, and there's always a beer in the fridge for me and or guests that pop in. But with kids, my work, and just my overall health, I can't, and I don't drink often. I can't afford to not be on my game, and I simply don't like the foggy feeling I get by drinking alcohol. So I've tried non-alcoholic beers, but I guess I'm a bit of a beer snob because none of them have measured up to a real craft beer experience that I like. But now with Athletic Brewing, I can have a high quality, just flavorful and award-winning craft beer, and it's only 50 to 70 calories per can. And these beers they fit into any occasion, so I don't have to compromise on my social life or choose between having a great beer and just keeping my clarity. So go ahead and check them out at athleticbrewing.com and use code GREG20 at checkout and receive 20% off your first beer order. And that's athleticbrewing.com, or you can find them at your local liquor store or bottle shop. And I'll let you know, I'll be having one every single episode I record. They're that good. This episode is brought to you by my longtime partner and amazing company and brilliant product, Athletic Greens. I'm using Athletic Greens every day. Great taste, so quick and ready to go. Athletic Greens is a delicious blend of 75 superfoods and vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and a greens blend and more to support gut health, energy, and immunity and stress. I've also been doubling down on Athletic Greens vitamin D. A huge portion of the population are vitamin D deficient, myself included. And right now, Athletic Greens will give you a year's supply of vitamin D for free and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Do yourself a favor and sign up. It makes a great gift for a family member or a friend. So sign up now and get a free year of supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by visiting athleticgreens.com/Greg. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Greg. This episode is brought to you by Form. In my opinion, Form Smart Swim Goggles are the biggest thing to hit the swimming world. With Form Smart Swim Goggles, you can see all your key metrics while you're swimming: your distance, your pace, stroke rate, and heart rate. The swim data is displayed on the goggle lens, and you can customize the display to see the key metrics that you want to see. I couldn't believe it when I first tried them. They fit like normal, comfortable goggles, and the display is there, but it's not in the way. I consciously look at the lens to see my stroke rate and my pace and my heart rate and distance. If you're a pool swimmer or an open water swimmer, I encourage you to check these goggles out. Please go to formswim.com/Greg. Again, that is formswim.com/Greg and get $15 off the Form Smart Swim Goggles at checkout, or use code GREG2021 at checkout. All right, today I'm joined in the studio by one of the most successful middle distance triathletes on the planet, winning a multitude of the biggest 70.3s in the world and placing 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, and 9th at the Ironman 70.3 World Championships. To me, it feels like it's time to crack the podium and take a win. It'll come shortly, I'm sure. If the World Championships were in the Napa Valley region, the wine region of California, this man would have plenty of hardware. He's won the Vineman, now Santa Rosa 70.3, 4 times from 5 starts. He's currently ranked number 12 in the world rankings with enormous potential to leap up to the top. It's a pleasure to have one of the best men I know in the studio with me. So welcome. And thanks for joining me on the Greg Bennett Show. Sam Appleton, how are you, mate?
Hey, Greg. Great to be here. Wow, what an intro. I mean, I don't know. I've been a fan of the show since you started it, and I must say I got a bit of imposter syndrome being here. I think I almost don't deserve to be here after all the guests and everything that you've had on. It's some big shoes to fill, but yeah, I'm stoked to be here and stoked to have a chat.
Not at all, mate. You are more than worthy. It's like I just touched on your resume in the introduction there, and. On that imposter syndrome, which is a word, we've all struggled with, do you still have that a little? Do you have that in the sport or is it just coming onto this podcast?
I don't know. I think maybe, through the sport as well. I'm just a kid from Western Sydney that, does sport for a living. It's kind of, I'm just an everyday guy, and to be, when you read off that resume, it's like, oh wow, I did
a couple of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've done pretty well. Yeah. But I've kind of always been a bit of a quiet achiever, so sometimes it's good to get that validation from other people, I think. And thanks for having me on.
No, well, I've been a big fan of yours. I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but was it at the Scott Carpenter pool in Boulder we first probably met? And I just thought you were just a well-mannered, respectful, but really wanting to be better. Like you were asking all the right questions. And that was probably 8 years ago. I'm not sure when you came to Boulder, but...
So I think you might not remember it. I think the first time we met was at Mandurah 70.3. It was the Australian Long Course Championships. Was that 2014?
Okay.
And I think that might have been one of your last races.
I DNF'd, I think, that day, actually.
And I think we were having a chat. And then, I came to Boulder the following year and, kind of really got to know you. But that's the great thing. I wanted to come to Boulder as, this young up-and-comer. I wanted to learn from the greats like yourself and Craig Alexander and all the other Australians that have, travelled over here, and I wanted to follow in that footsteps. It's like a rite of passage almost.
Yeah,
so,
there's a few of us, isn't there, now, when you think Rinnie's over here, and like you mentioned, Crowie would always come over, Chris Lee, there's a plethora. I know I'm missing names.
Joe Gambles.
Thank you. Yeah. There's so many Aussies that have made Boulder home, and even non-triathletes. The amount of Aussies that I bump into, even taking the kids to gymnastics, and we've met so many in the playground. Mums, I hear that sounds like an Aussie.
Exactly.
It's an invasion.
Yeah, I mean it's a beautiful spot, and it's a great spot to train as well. And I never really came here with the anticipation to move here and, set down roots. But I met my now wife and bought a house, and now we have a dog, and now it gets ever harder to leave. And I think I've put roots down here, and it's a great spot to live and to train. It's easy for me to go out and do my job day in, day out, so.
I know, isn't it fun? Well, we're not allowed back to Australia at the moment anyway, so you might as well put down roots. And I mean, that's great. Are you on a green card then, or what are you a citizen of the US
No,
now?
I'm still on the P1 visa. I should have done the green card when Sarah and I got married, but my immigration lawyer was like, it's way easier just to renew the visa. We can just do it online. You pay the fee and it's done.
Yeah.
I think he didn't want to do the work, and I was like, if it's easy, sure. But now that I'm on a P1 visa, I'm still not a permanent resident. So traveling back into the US through the quarantine and everything and the pandemic was quite difficult. So when I went to the Collins Cup, I had to come back into the US on an ESTA. So I've got 90 days. So I have to leave the US again on November 24th. So, it was a bit of a pain in the butt, but we got it organised because I really wanted to race the Collins Cup.
Yeah.
But I'm actually heading back to Australia at the end of November, so to sort out my visa situation so I can come back to the US.
Oh, that's great. You need to go home and see family anyway. And you mentioned Western Sydney. Where specifically were you?
So I grew up in the Blue Mountains.
Name
beautiful.
of the town? Lithgow? What?
So I grew up in Glenbrook, which is lower Blue Mountains.
Right.
But had an awesome childhood there.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. I think some of the best running trails in the world. And, that's not a hyperbole. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
I think it's,
and some good mountain biking too, isn't there?
Yeah, really good. And I just spent so much of my childhood in the outdoors growing up, swimming in all the rivers and streams and running and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world. My brother's just moved to the other side of the Blue Mountains and he's gone to Bathurst.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, a bit further along. And I know my family all come from Katoomba and that part of the world. So
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is a magnificent listen, anybody that wants to visit Australia, don't miss out on going to the Blue Mountains and Katoomba and the Three Sisters and the Three Sisters is actually a rock formation, by the way. I'm not talking about meeting Three Sisters. Anyway, mate, this is what'd you get up to this morning? Because we're recording now on a lunchtime on Saturday. Did you train this morning?
Yeah, so I went out and rode 3 hours. I had a bit of a harder bike session. After 70.3 Worlds, it took me a little bit longer to kind of come around and find my legs again. But today I went out and rode up to Ward. So for anyone that's not a local, you ride up to about 10,000 feet here at Ward. And it's starting to get a bit cold, so I wanted to make the most of kind of the higher elevation rides for the next few weeks. So I rode up to Ward, did a bit of a TT specific session, 3 hours total, so nothing too bad. And then, I'm going to run this afternoon after the podcast. All
right. Well, I'll try not to wear you out too much. Now, you were considering racing today anyway at the Memphis 70.3. Did you see the results? I just looked at the results and I was thinking, I wonder if Sam, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I love following triathlon as well, even races that I'm not supposed to do. Yeah, I had a kind of penciled in Memphis after 70.3 Worlds just to see if I'd come around. But I think perhaps I underestimated the kind of emotional and physical toll that prepping for a world championship can do to the body. And it took me, I didn't really feel good up until a couple of days ago. And I just didn't want to go into a race like Memphis 70.3, a little bit underdone and maybe not completely mentally in it. So I decided to pull out, and I'm going to do the LA Tri in 3 weeks and then on to Oceanside 70.3. So I didn't want to rush into anything.
Freshen up a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And give the body a rest if it needs it. Yeah. I've always been pretty good at keying off my body and how I'm feeling, and I've never had success forcing it. So I listened to my body, and I'm going to regroup and then go again. So today was kind of the first harder bike session back, and then a bit of a harder run this afternoon as well. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, good man. Well, I think you made the right decision. I had Sam Long sitting on the deck yesterday afternoon with me, and he pulled out of the Ironman that he started the week after Worlds in Chattanooga, and he said, he thought he'd be okay, but I think that race in St. George, 70.3 Worlds, and we'll talk on that in a bit more in a second, but I think, it is quite a demanding, when you race it, when you're getting top tens, when you're in the thick of the race and you're trying to get everything out of yourself as you can, it is a race that can bite you. It's a tough race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, racing a 70.3, at the front of a world championship in that top 10, like you said, it requires so much of the body and so much emotional, so much emotional investment as well. And I really think you need to give it the respect it deserves and allow the body to come around. And, I think, for someone like Sam, it was always going to be a tough ask backing up from an Ironman. But I thought if anyone can do it, it's probably him.
He's had one of those years, hasn't he? Where you're like,
absolutely.
When he put himself on the start line, I'm like, you'll probably do it.
I think a lot of people thought the same. Yeah, he's had a great year, and but there's still plenty of races to come, and a lot more racing ahead. So I thought I don't need to rush. I don't need to force any racing, and I'll just race when the body's ready. Perfect.
Well, what I wanted to do today is look at the 70.3 Worlds, recap your whole season a bit, Collins Cup and everything else that you've been doing. And then I just want to get to know you a bit more. We'll rewind the clock, as I say, and we'll go back and look at a bit of your past. Before we do that, you want to crack open a beer? What have you got there? We've got an Athletic Brewing again, people. Highly recommended. Loving these things. Which one have you got?
I've got the Run Wild IPA. I'm an IPA drinker. I pretty much drink exclusively IPAs, so I'm looking forward to giving this one a go.
Is that right? Well, I've got what have I got? I got the Free Wave Hazy IPA. So this one's a bit more of a fruitier one. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
All right. So let's get cracking here, everybody. Let's have a look at this. We're looking at 2 weeks ago today that you raced the 70.3 World Championships. You came in 9th. Overall feeling? Solid day? What do you think?
Yeah, I think solid is a pretty good word for it. It wasn't, I don't think it was my best foot forward, but it's also, when I kind of take a bird's eye view of my year and my lead up, I'm actually reasonably proud of another top 10. I think that's my 4th or 5th top 10 at the 70.3 World. So
that's a lot of them, mate. I just read them all out at the stop. 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th. So yeah, that's five top 10s.
I mean, to be consistent over the last 5 years is something to be proud of. But I just have a bit of a nagging kind of in the back of my head. You know I can run better than I ran at St. George. And I think, you know, that's what makes us athletes. We always want more, I think. You know, even I've won races that I haven't been completely satisfied with.
Yeah, that's true, right?
And I think that's what keeps us coming back, and that's what keeps us moving the needle and driving forward and finding all those small improvements. So I think overall I'm content, but I'm really hungry for more, and I know I've got more in me. So that's also another thing that's, in the back of my mind. I know I can give more, and I think... I mean, St. George next year is going to be the same course, I'd imagine. So, I mean, it was a great race, and to be battling it out at the front, the swim, bike, and then for a little bit of the run. I mean, I'm happy, and I think I'm trying to get better at being a little bit easier on myself and not being so hard on myself.
What are you talking about? You're a professional athlete.
Well, yeah, exactly. But like I said, that drive and that hunger is what keeps us coming back and keeps us, you know, year after year.
Yeah. So you had your typical race where, I mean, Ben Canute, I was talking to him, he was on last week's episode, and we kind of went through this race a bit, and you guys, you know, have the tussle for leading the swim. And then you went onto the bike. Ben got a little gap at the start of the bike, he was saying. I mean, were you happy to let him go? Did you not have the legs? What was the start of that like for you? So,
Ben and I were chatting on the start line, and he's like, because I think we both know that it was probably going to be down to, me or him to lead the swim. So, he just said to me, he goes, whoever feels good will, let the other person lead, and don't drag each other down, because swimming next to each other, you can get tangled. You can actually inhibit each other's momentum, and especially if you're sitting on their hip as well.
Well, you and Jan next to each other at Collins Cup was a prime example of that.
Yep, exactly. And I just thought Ben was swimming well, and I thought I can sit on his feet pretty comfortably, and I may as well conserve, because I know if I went to the front, I'd be just doing the same pace, but probably using more energy. So, I was happy to let Ben lead the swim. And then I actually had a problem in T1. I spent about 45 seconds trying to get my zipper.
Oh, no. It's happened to all of us. Oh, it's the worst feeling. You just get so frustrated. You're like,
Exactly. So my zipper actually broke. So I ended up riding the whole ride with my, bare chested. But I spent about 45 seconds in transition trying to get it up, because I knew, it was important to get it done up.
For the aerodynamics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is there also a rule that you have to try and have that up? I know ITU have certain amount.
I think there used to be a rule, but Ironman probably made the right decision in getting rid of that rule, because people love to unzip. And
I've got photos going around the internet right now with my shirt off. Do you know a guy by the name of Christophe Croze? He's a French guy. He has a group on Facebook with all the triathlon, I guess, call them legends or whatever. But I guess there's a photo of me that he put up of, wheeling my bike into transition, into T2, I think, whatever, at I think it was Minneapolis, and I'm shirtless. And Facebook have written him and say, hey, get this nudity off your site. Really? I'm like, what? I just saw it. Anybody that knows, go check it out on Christophe Croze. He's doing a remarkable job of trying to keep the sports history alive. Yeah, but he's getting in trouble by putting nudists on his page.
Amazing.
So anyway, go back to you. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. And then obviously I was playing a bit of catch up, because there was about 6 of us that had a bit of a gap out of the swim, about 45 to 50 seconds, I think. And I was like, this is the race, because I raced St. George earlier this year, back when it was the North American champs. And that's what happened. That front swim group gets away, and it's almost can be lights out for people chasing. So I was a little bit frustrated, but then fortunately, I rode quite hard, and there was a couple of guys, I think Frederick Frank and Ditlev and Gustav Eden. We all kind of rode together to catch back up to that front group, who was about, that 40 seconds in front. And then, it was that group of, I think there was 8 or 9 of us, until Gustav wasn't feeling too social anymore and decided to...
So rude.
Yeah, so rude. He decided that he'd had enough of us, and off he went, and we never saw him again.
Yeah, so when did he go? When was that? That was about... halfway through? No.
I think it was about 60K.
Yeah, 60K,
along Red Hills Parkway.
Yeah.
There was a uphill, and it didn't really look like he attacked as such. It almost looked like one of those positioning errors where, you know, when it kind of groups together at the base of a climb, after you've just done a descent, it strings out, you hit the base of a climb, and it all comes together. And I thought,
the leader slows down and the back markers are still moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought he had just maybe entered the draft zone, so he made a commitment to go to the front to not get a penalty.
Right.
And then, all of a sudden, I'm just like, I think I was actually the one that
you
dropped.
were. Ben Canute told me it was you.
To be fair, I was thinking someone else can bloody come around and cover this gap.
Ben wasn't harsh, by the way. He's like, I didn't want to do it.
Sorry to all the guys that were behind me, but I just don't think anyone really had the legs to go with Gustav, because then he ended up coming into T2 all by himself. You know, he rode a 1:58 on that course, which is amazing, unbelievable. Just a all-round complete performance by him, which is, you know, it's just lifting the game again. You can't, it's just, it's incredible.
You think, I've improved this year. This is going to be my year. And then suddenly the bar's a little higher. Damn it.
Yeah.
When do I get to step and be the guy that leads that bar? And I think, we'll get more into this, but I think this is you, it's a Ben Canute, and it's this next group that will be the ones lifting the bar. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, okay, we got to jump again. Here we go.
Yep. Well, we've seen the sport evolving. You know, first it was a few years ago, and now with the influx of the ITU guys, it's all happening again. It just keeps evolving and keeps getting faster and faster, and you just can't have a weakness. No, you just have to be so strong across the board in order to be successful. And rising tide lifts all boats, right? Yeah. I just had a chat to my coach, Matt Dixon, and it was kind of one of those, you know, existential talks that we had. It's like, you know, the level's changing again. Do you want to go with it? You know, one of those kind of hard-hitting questions that he was asking me, and bloody oath, I want to go with it. So here we go. I'm going to focus over the winter and really knuckle down, and hopefully next year it'll be me raising the bar again. Good.
You gave me goosebumps just then. That was awesome. I love that. You got to go all in. Matt Dixon, what a great guy. He's come on this show. I went on his show. I really enjoy Matt's company. He speaks really well. Mm-hmm. He's doing very well on the coaching side of things. So that's fantastic. You mentioned earlier, you know, you felt like your run might have been a bit. Do you think your run needs a work, or is it more strength on the bike so you can optimize your run?
To be honest, I think it's the run itself. This year I had a really kind of tough year just getting momentum and rhythm in my training. I had a bit of a knee injury at the beginning of the year, which kind of knocked me out for a little bit. And then I got going again. And then, you know, I had some other health issues that came up, and I just never was able to string together those back-to-back months of really consistent training this year that I really needed to be, you know, further up at a 70.3 Worlds. And I think the run is something that I've always had to work on, and it's something that I'm going to have to continue to work on for the rest of my career, I think. You know, I feel like my swim and bike are at that level where it needs to be. But it's a delicate balance, you know. With triathlon, there's 3 sports that you need to train for, and, you know, requiring, you know, if you want to find more time in the run, it's probably going to require dropping the swim and bike volume, which could then, you know, that's my strength, which could, you know, I don't want to lose my strength. So it's kind of that delicate balance that you need to find. But this winter, obviously, we're going to have a bit of a run project, and I'm hoping to come through the other side as a bit of a Sam 2.0. Yeah. And I'm really excited for that. I think, you know, I really want to surround myself with people that are going to push me and drive me and, improve me overall as an athlete.
So when you say run project, can you give us any insight to what that might be? Is that training partners, or is that doing running races? Is that...
Yeah, I think I've always been a bit of a lone wolf with my training, and I think perhaps I've kind of reached that ceiling, and now I need to find people that are going to push me, and I really want to surround myself with actual runners, and I want to get in with a run group here in Boulder. There's, you know, a plethora of run groups that you can choose from, and I just really want to go, and I really want to become a runner. And yeah, that's the goal for this winter. I want to go, and I almost want to get my butt kicked by these professional runners, and but I'm excited for that. That's what keeps us coming back. That those small improvements and those gains is what really excites me. And I think, yeah, being a professional athlete, you're always trying to find those areas where you can improve.
I like that. It's a mindset shift as much as it is the physical component. A quick mini break to remind you of the show's incredible partners. A quick reminder to do yourself a favor and sign up to Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens also makes a great gift for any family member or friend. So sign up now and get a free year's supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase by visiting athleticgreens.com/Greg. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Greg. If you want to see all your key metrics like pace, distance, stroke rate, and heart rate while you swim, you need the Form Smart Swim goggles. Go to formswim.com/Greg. That's formswim.com/Greg and get $15 off. Or you can use code GREG2021 at checkout. If you enjoy a beer but want to keep your clarity, stay on your game, then you have to try Athletic Brewing. I was just simply blown away by how good they taste. Just a true craft beer. Go check them out at athleticbrewing.com. That's athleticbrewing.com. And use code GREG20 at checkout and receive 20% off your first beer order. And I hate to bring it back to me, but I'm about to. I remember back, must have been about 2000, 2001. And I was like, I did the math. I started figuring out, how many of these races are really won with the run? And like, it's close to 90%.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So I'm like you, I was like, I've been running hard, but it was a shift to go, no, I'm going to be a runner. And so I started entering all the big running races in America, the Beta Breakers, what's the one out east, Falmouth, and the Beach to Beacon, entering all these running races, calling the race directors, saying, I'm a professional athlete, can you help me out, everything, and they did. They were lovely. And I considered myself a professional triathlete, but also a professional runner, right? And I'd run with the Kenyans and the Africans as long as I could, no tactics other than sit and stay as long as I could and then make it home. And that was massive for me in my trajectory with my running. It really did. It was like that mindset shift.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I want to do. I want to surround myself with those runners, and get back to, because I used to do quite a lot of running races back growing up through high school and things. I loved it. I loved running. But I think this last year especially, I've kind of lost that the run that I used to have, and I really want to find that again. Yeah,
well, you're still young enough. You're what, 31?
31 now.
Yeah. So you're just coming into the golden years. You've heard me talk about on this show, I'm sure. But I think these are the years that magic can happen. So what about, let's have a look at the Collins Cup, because I thought you had an outstanding race there. So basically, for anybody who doesn't know, there's 18 men, 18 women that are represented, had to qualify to get to Collins Cup. 6 of those men represented Europe, 6 international, and 6 for the USA, and same with the women. So you came 5th out of the 18, but the way it went with the match draws, you were in match 1 with arguably one of the GOATs that we've seen in our sport, Jan Frodeno. And I spoke to Jan after the race. You guys firstly side by side the entire swim. Didn't give an inch.
Yeah, perhaps not the best tactic.
No, made for good TV. Then on the bike, this is when I spoke to Jan after the race. I said, so did Sam, what happened to Sam? He's like, yeah, he was gone completely. And then the next minute I knew he was back behind me. He's like, what in the world? Where did he come from? So you had a crash, right? Because I saw you head out on the run. Blood was everywhere. People were like, oh, Sam's got a bleeding nose. I'm like, it looks more than that. It was like everywhere. Tell me about that day.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Collins Cup was super exciting and great to be a part of. I think, the PTO are doing a great thing for our sport and really elevating the professional athletes, which is really exciting. And I think when they first announced, how the race was going to work, I was like, you know what? I reckon being put with Jan would be really, really good for me, because I know that I can swim with Jan, and I think that I can bike with him as well. And I knew that the US team was going to give Sam Long against Jan, because that had been the talk. And I was like, if I get put with Jan, it's going to be hard for Sam to come back. So we were kind of allies almost. And I just think it really worked out to our favor. We were able to swim together, get a good gap on Sam. And then it was pouring with rain for us. And I just took a spill on one of the corners early on in the bike.
I don't think the camera's got it.
No,
I didn't know about that one.
So the camera was right next to me, and then it went up to get Jan, who was 20, 30 meters in front. And as it was driving away from me, that next corner, I slid out and crashed. I was like, of course, it's missed me. And so I got back up. I was fine. It was wet. I did one of those, those slides along the pavement that doesn't really hurt you.
Yeah. It's always good to crash in the wet, everybody.
Exactly.
Well, better. It's not good. It's better.
I was a little bit cut up, but nothing, the adrenaline was pumping. I got straight back up, probably lost, my chain came off, so I probably lost 45, 50 seconds. And mentally I was like, oh man, what do I do now? Am I going to ride by myself? Do I wait for Sam? Because I didn't know.
How far in were you? Sorry.
Probably about 5K. So
really early?
Really early.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
And I was like, should I wait for, not wait, but should I, I'll
Sam
see
Long
where Sam Long
coming,
is, and maybe then we can work together and catch back up to Jan. And we got to that first kind of U-turn, and I was like, oh man, Sam lost quite a bit of time in that swim, and Jan is probably a minute in front of me. But the nature of the course, it was this long straight highway, and I could see this figure just in the distance on the horizon. And I was like, I think that's Jan. And then slowly, ever so slowly, the figure got a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And I was like, I think I'm catching him. And that gave me that switch in my brain where I was, really motivated. I was like, I can ride back up to Jan here. So I rode really quite hard for the next, I think it took me 65 kilometers to catch him. And I caught back up.
Ouch.
And then I was like, I'm still feeling pretty good here. Should I go past and, take a bit of TV time and transition? And I was like, all right, I'll refuel. I'll get a drink. I'll take on a gel. And I did. And I feel like then it hit me where I was like, man, I've just ridden 65K, probably a little bit harder than I should have.
Taking a minute out of Jan.
Exactly. Yeah. So then I was like, I should probably just conserve and then see how the run goes. And then we got off, and Jan obviously, like you said, the greatest of all time, just showed his class on the run. But yeah, it was a race that I was really proud of. To come back from, a crash and to ride back up. And it was just really exciting to be a part of it. And I knew that Jan would have a lot of media around his event. So I was kind of using that as well for a bit of a boost in my profile as well, which is part of the game now. It was just a great event, and I was really happy to be a part of it and to put down a good performance.
Yeah, well, I think you had an outstanding performance, and I hadn't realized that you'd crashed until I think Jan told me at the finishing line. He said, oh no, he said it was so weird. He just suddenly was behind me on the bike. It's like, what? He was so confused almost, like, did he cut the whole course? Where does this guy come from? So, he was very impressed with your race. And then you got to get one back at Sam Long, because he'd beaten you just a couple of weeks before at the Ironman 70.3 in Boulder, right?
At Boulder, yes. So Sam beat me there at Boulder, and then I kind of wanted a rematch, and we got that, and I was able to get one back on him. But then obviously, he's then beat me again at 70.3.
He did very well there, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, he's definitely coming out in front this year. So we'll have to see about next year. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to get a chance to race him again.
He was unsure. When I spoke to him yesterday, he's so fired up to get going again. Like, dude, just enjoy your little break. And
I mean, he's got that young energy.
Yeah, he does, and he does. He's not that much younger than. Was he 5 years younger than you?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I think he's fairly committed to 2022 more than trying to find races at the end of the year. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. So you said you got LA, Oceanside. Are you going to do Daytona?
So I entered Daytona, but it's right around the time that I have to go back to Australia.
Oh, of course, you mentioned that. Yeah, that's right.
I'm not 100% sure. I think I might actually have to leave the US before that Daytona race.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and work it out and see if I can get an extension on my visa. And if I can, then I'll do Daytona. But if not, then unfortunately, because it looks like a great race, I would love to be there.
Oh yeah, they do a great job. Clash Endurance, it's called now. They're with Bill Christie, and they've got a good team. They're doing some amazing work.
Well, I did the PTO champs last year, and it was just fantastic. Just the nature of the course at that speedway is really quite incredible. You wouldn't think it would lend itself to be that good for triathlon, but it really was. It was great, great for crowds because they were seeing you
lap after
20
lap
times on the bike and then 4 or 5 times on the run. It's one of the best spectator courses out there and great for TV and media.
The production is fantastic. They're using the full NASCAR team.
Yep.
I was fortunate to be a part of the Miami race, and the production team they're using, I mean, they're some of the best producers and people I've ever worked with. They're next level. So it is exciting. And what they're doing well is it's not just the professionals. They have a great, all different kinds of amateur events too, short, long running races. They're doing the whole, that whole thing. The Noosa Triathlon in Australia. For everybody that doesn't know, you should, if you ever want to do a trip, go to Noosa and do the Noosa Multi-Sport Festival, they call it. And it's just so many great events, and there's a real atmosphere about it, isn't it? The parties. And
it's great. And, you get to watch other people race. They get to watch you race. Yeah, it has this really cool festival.
Yeah, no, that's cool, mate. Well, let's do this. It's time of the show. We all want to rewind the clock. I want to get to know you a bit more. And so you said you grew up in the Western Sydney in the mountains, loved being outside, but when did this passion really start for endurance sports?
Oh, so I think as a kid, I always gravitated towards endurance sports because I was a bit of a late developer. I think I never had that explosive power. So I grew up swimming, actually. My parents, I've got 3 brothers, and so all 4 of us were, tossed in the pool.
Older or younger? Where you stand? I have my own little theories on all this.
So I've got 2 older, 1 younger.
Oh, is that right? You're in smack bang. Okay. Yeah.
So, and we were all thrown in the pool before we could walk, I think. Growing up in Australia, it's just a very active country, I feel, and everyone grows up near the beach. So learning to swim is kind of like if you're a kid in Australia, you know how to swim.
Yeah.
I swam competitively kind of growing up, and always did athletics and school cross country, and I played soccer for about 6 years as well. Growing up, my dad's British, so he's a big soccer guy. And then I think I always gravitated towards the longer distance events. Like I said, I wasn't the strongest or fastest, and I think it was the influence of my swimming coach at the time. I think I was about 13. She was like, why don't you try triathlon? Because she did triathlon, and I obviously was a competitive swimmer, and I did school cross country and soccer and things. I tried out my first triathlon when I was about 13. It was on a borrowed mountain bike, a Huffy mountain bike, and it was a 14.
What year was that? Hang on, you were 13.
So it would have been 2003.
Okay, yeah.
So I was born in 90.
Yeah.
And it was a 14-kilometer ride, and it was 2 laps. And I remember I finished the first lap, and I was like, I cannot for the life of me do another lap. So I DNF'd my first ever triathlon as a 13-year-old.
Wow, way to set the bar.
But I think, like I was alluding to before, I had that hunger and that drive even as a 13-year-old kid. I wanted to come back, and I wanted to do better. And I think a month later, because it was just the local Penrith Triathlon Club I was a part of.
Yeah, Panthers.
Yep. And a month later I did the next one, and I finished it. And then from there, I think, through high school, I got identified through the National Talent Identification through Triathlon New South Wales, and then kind of followed that ITU pathway for a few years after high school. But to be honest, I got a little bit burnt out with the whole ITU racing. I did it.
Was it too formal? Was it too regimented, or what?
A little bit, yeah. I just felt like I lost my love for the sport of triathlon after a couple of years. There was a lot of politics involved. I often felt like I wasn't necessarily racing for myself. I was racing to secure points for the country, to secure funding and all this kind of stuff. And I just got a little bit burnt out with it, to be honest. And I actually walked away from the sport of triathlon, I think in about 2012. I took a year off.
Oh, wow.
And then, just kind of got that itch again, I guess. Yeah, it all comes back to that itch. And
it won't let you go, huh? Yeah.
And then I just started doing some local stuff, some non-drafting, and then I entered my first 70.3, I think in 2014. Which was Cairns 70.3, and I raced Pete Jacobs. He won. I think I was 4th place. I think Luke McKenzie raced as well. So
some big Aussie names.
And then I was fourth place, and I kind of got hooked from there. I was like, yeah, let's give it another shake. And I didn't really expect where it would lead me, but here I am now in 2021 and 31 years old. So I've been doing triathlon longer than I haven't been doing triathlon.
That's awesome.
I guess. So.
Well, big shout out to the Penrith Triathlon Club, the Panthers, and you good friends, the Chapmans, Trent Chapman.
Those boys used to
the Chappos.
They used to drag me out. They were pretty great athletes themselves, and I used to do a bunch of training with those guys, and they used to smash me.
Oh yeah, they're quality. Well, Trent Chapman was probably my number one training partner through the late 90s. For sure. We did a lot of fun, but they seem like you got a really good culture out there for triathlon in that Penrith and the lower Blue Mountains area. It just seems like there's this great community. Is that what it's like?
Yeah, absolutely. I think those guys and the whole of Panthers Tri Club, it's a great community. Everyone likes to train really hard, but they also don't take it too seriously.
Exactly. They're having fun. Which
is really important. It's just a great group of guys, and I used to love training with them, and I learned a lot, and they used to kick my butt for sure. But I haven't seen them in a while because obviously I've been over here for so many years.
Well, we'll have to make sure they listen to this episode. So we're giving them a big shout out. But that part of the world, Nepean Triathlon used to be in the river, Nepean River up there. That was my first ever event in triathlon. And I say event because I did it in a relay, and I went out there to do the run portion, which was a 14-kilometer run that was quite brutal. It went across the bridge and up the hill. And when we got there, the guy that was going to do the swim for us had a bit of an asthma attack. I think it was just nerves, but whatever. And they're like, oh, Greg, well, you surf a little bit. You do this 800-meter swim. Now, I wasn't a swimmer. I was a 14-year-old kid at this point, and managed to get out of the water second last. I beat somebody and handed off to my mate who did the bike, and then I did the run. And anyway, I'm bringing that story back to me because that, for me, is where my whole career really probably started with that very first experience at the Nepean Triathlon. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of history there. I think it's one of the oldest running events in Australia. Well, that was
Australia. 86, I think. December 86 I did that or something,
I don't know this. I think it's still going, the Nepean Triathlon. It's now out at the Regatta Centre now. But I've raced that a number of times. It's a great event.
Have you ever won it?
I got second to Aaron Royal one time, and then I think I might have gotten second to Tim Reed one time.
Oh, Tim Reed. We'll talk about him in a moment. He was sitting right where you are about 4 weeks ago. Yep. So actually, let's talk about him right now because it was funny. When I had him on the show and I brought up your results, which you can do head-to-head profile on the PTO website, you guys have been racing each other non-stop for, it seems like a good part of a decade. It maybe not that long. Maybe it's like you said, 2014 or whatever. But it was incredible to see just the back and forth of who's winning, who's getting second, third. You guys are following each other and like you said earlier, rising tide lifts all boats. It looks to me like you guys are really pushing each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I did meet Tim in about 2014 or so. And we kind of gravitated towards each other pretty quickly. And then obviously, like Tim said in his episode, we formed that coach-athlete relationship.
Oh, did you listen to it, did you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But obviously we parted ways because I started.
He said it was costing me more to have him.
Yeah, exactly. I started picking his lunch. So but we always remained great friends. He was actually the best man at my wedding in 2019. So
is that right?
Yeah, we've just remained the closest of friends, which is. It's great. I love the sport of triathlon for the people that I've met and the friendships that I've made. It's just amazing.
It is amazing, isn't it? We're so blessed to have so many great people in the sport. But looking at that, when you'd had your year off and you came back into the sport, when was it? Was there any time in that where it was like, I should give this a good nudge? I should actually go all in and give this a professional go? Or was that in the ITU days, or did you always kind of feel that wasn't it?
I think there was a race in 2015 in Geelong 70.3. It was the very beginning of 2015. Before I came to Boulder, I went toe-to-toe with Craig Alexander. Crow was still racing pretty well at that time. I think we swam and we biked and we ran together for about 20K, and he dropped me right at the end. He ended up beating me by
you let him get
about 7 seconds. And it was kind of one of the races that I've always looked back now and just thought, I think that was the catalyst for me having that shift, that mental change.
Get rid of that imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
it was like, I do belong.
Think so.
Yeah,
and then it's like, maybe I can, give this a good shake. And ever since then, I've kind of, I've had that belief in myself, and then obviously came to Boulder. I had a pretty successful year in 2015 and 16. And then, it's just kind of, I think I can put it down to that race and that shift in my mental capacity and the way I thought of myself as an athlete.
Well, then you went on to win, was it 6 70.3s in, was it 2015 you won 6, or was it 2016? Sorry.
I think.
You went on a spell there. It seemed like for about 2 or 3 years. It was right when I was on my way out and well and truly on my way out. I probably stayed in a year or two long. And you just were, every time I looked up, I was like, okay, Sam Appleton winning again.
I think, it was funny, after that race that Craig beat me, and we raced again at Cairns 70.3 a couple of months later, and I ended up turning the tables, beating him then. And then we did Vineman 70.3. That was my first ever US race. And I ended up winning that as well. And that was kind of the first time where I was like, I've just won a race on US soil, and Vineman at that, which is
for anybody who doesn't know that is listening in, amongst the professionals, we often call Vineman the World Championships in June, right? Yep. Or is it July? June, whatever it is, the early season World Championship. And I'm only mentioning it because I did win it once too. I ain't kidding.
Well, but that's what I mean. Like when you look at the results history, it's yourself, Devin Doherty, some amazing athletes have won that race. Yeah. And for me to come over, this kind of relatively unknown on the international scene to come over, and that was kind of another step in the right direction. And then I think from there, it's kind of, it's just taken off from there. So I think 2015, that race with Craig was that, like I said, the catalyst for where I am now in my career. Yeah,
so you would have been 25, 26 at that time, I guess, when you got to. Now, you mentioned you had that year off in 2012. Have you had any sort of other moments where you felt like giving this all away, quitting? Has there been some tough times?
I wouldn't say giving it up or anything, but there's definitely times where you need to take a step back. Yeah. And, usually that comes at an end of season or something when you're mentally a little bit depleted or, because for me, it's always physically I'm okay, but it's my kind of mental capacity that goes before my physical. So, when I'm not motivated and when I'm not hungry to train, that's when I kind of know I need to maybe take a step back for a couple of weeks. And that's usually at the end of a season, so you can enjoy, some time off, but not in terms of ever leaving the sport or quitting. No, I love what I do. It's amazing. It's not always sunshine and roses, like you obviously will know. It's not. I thought it was all Instagram. I thought it was all happy, positive. Yeah, that's it's brutal, isn't it, at times? Yeah. And I think there has been a shift, especially through Instagram, where people are now talking about their trials and tribulations, not just. I think COVID's brought a bit of that out, where people are starting to show perspective and share what they've gone through and everything else. And I think people really relate to that, because it's, it's easy to get trapped in that social media where everyone's only putting up, the great things they're doing. They're not posting about the, the failed bike session that they did this morning. And you get so pissed at yourself and exactly. I know. And you got to manage those emotions and or that little niggle that suddenly creeps up just as you got a race 2 weeks around the corner and your sponsorships are on edge and you're like, absolutely. Not now. Absolutely. I mean, here we are talking about all the negatives, but honestly, it is a, to be able to be a professional athlete in the sport that you love, you also have tremendous gratitude, right? I mean, it's for sure. Pretty fortunate. And I think, it's really important to stay grounded, and I think and recognize how lucky we are to, exercise for a living pretty much. Yeah, and, that's true. Do what we love and, and enjoy what we do. Yeah, and try and have something to strive for. I think you're having purpose, I think being a professional athlete, you really have this purpose. Like your purpose right now is to get ready for 2022. You'll finish a couple of races here to become the best in the world at something. Yeah. And that for me was always, it always gave life such strong meaning to have such purpose, Yeah, absolutely. So that was the one that when I retired, people say, "Oh, Greg, do you miss it?" And I said, I don't miss doing the little things, the rollers, and I don't mind the hard training. I kind of enjoyed I don't know, there's something sadistic about that, but I do miss that. But the one thing I truly missed was that absolute
sense of purpose to try and be the greatest.
Yeah, exactly. You wake up with, a direction. You're like, this is what I'm doing today. I'm doing a ride this morning, coming back, having lunch, going to the pool, doing this. It is. And I think back to that purpose, earlier this year I had, a bit of struggles with some mental health issues that almost took me out of the sport. I had to take, probably a month or 6 weeks where I didn't really train that much. And that was really difficult because it took away that purpose. I was waking up, I wasn't motivated to train, I wasn't training very well, and you kind of just wander around aimlessly. And I think to get back on track, I had to find that purpose again. And
how did you do that? Because that's not easy, coming out of that kind of funk, if you want to call it.
Yeah, it was difficult at times, but I think just kind of getting back to basics and, perhaps not even setting yourself athletic goals, but waking up and like, all right, today I'm going to call my mum, or I'm going to
create a routine of something. Exactly. Yeah, a basic routine.
Have these small achievable goals for yourself that just give you that little bit of drive. I'm going to walk my dog this 30-minute walk loop. Yeah. Just things like that. It's that old adage that mood follows action, which I really love.
Yeah, you keep the expectations lower so you can step over them and achieve throughout the day, and that builds that self-esteem and that self-belief.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, before I knew it, I was able to get back into good training. I was able to string together some consistent training, which is really important. And like you said, having that sense of direction and that purpose is really important.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing that with us, because I think a lot of us go through all of that. We don't talk about it enough, that we all go in these, these times. And I think it's important we do talk about it, and I think it's really important to talk about how we can get ourselves out of these areas, and having those little goals and little things, I think is fantastic. What I want to do now is I'm going to do these 15 fun rapid fire questions. Are you up for it?
All right. Yeah, let's
Just so we can get to know you a little bit more.
Sure.
All right. Simple one. What is your favorite family vacation?
Favorite family vacation? Probably Kauai on the island in Hawaii. My wife is from Kauai. She grew up there, and we went there. We've been there a couple of times for a holiday, and just a beautiful, beautiful spot.
Yeah, everybody raves about it. I've never been there. It's meant to be the most beautiful island of the Hawaii Islands. Would you say?
I mean, I've been to Oahu, Kona, and Kauai, and I think it's my favorite out of the three that I've been to. For sure.
Oh, you're a lucky man. That's awesome. Okay, what are you currently watching on Netflix or whatever streamer you're using?
On Netflix, I'm currently watching a show called Midnight Mass. It's a bit of a weird one. It's kind of like a horror mystery thriller series by the guy that did Haunting of Bly Manor and Haunting of Hill House as well. I'm actually, now you bring it up, I'm actually a bit of a TV and movie geek.
Are you really?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I love going to the movies and things like that. I go all the time, often by myself, which some people find a little weird. But yeah, I love it. Just kind of, having that 90 minutes to 2 hours to go away, turn everything off and have one sole focus of the cinema. It's kind of liberating almost.
That's fantastic. I love that. All right, so we'll have to look out for that show. I haven't watched anything since we've had kids, so I'm always interested to see what people are listening. Okay, first car you owned?
It was a Subaru WRX. I'm a kid from Western Sydney. I had to have a car that was loud and obnoxious, that had a big, one of those big mufflers on the back that's way too noisy.
Did you really? Was it blue? They were all blue, weren't they?
No, mine was silver.
Oh, was it really?
But I look back on it now, I'm like, what was I thinking? But at the time I was, I thought I was the coolest kid on the block. I saved up my money, bought the car, and I thought I was cool.
It was a cool car. Wasn't the insurance for them really high because they were almost stolen car or something? Or?
Yeah, and I think because it's a turbocharged car and it's all, all the young kids like to have them. I think the insurance is high because they always crash them and things like that.
Did you take it out drifting? Were you drifting on that?
No, I never did drifting, but I had my moments for sure, and probably a little bit irresponsible in my early 20s. But
no, but I'd think of when I think, because I'm a bit of a North Shore snob, when I think of Western Sydney, I expect you guys to have a WRX Subaru and be drifting and doing handbrake turns around the roundabout. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. All right. How many episodes of The Greg Bennett Show have you listened to?
Ooh, quite a few, actually. I would say probably 50% of them.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, thank you. I wasn't expecting that. I thought we would have a bit of a laugh about how few you'd listen to.
Well, I always... Because I do a lot of training by myself. I love listening to podcasts. I love going out for a long ride, just kind of by myself with some podcasts.
What else do you like to listen to?
So a lot of sports podcasts, and then back to the kind of film and TV kind of nerd culture podcasts as well. And then I actually listen to audiobooks as well sometimes when I'm riding.
Good man. I like that. All right. Thank you. All right. 2 most used apps on your iPhone or your whatever phone you're using.
Probably Instagram and Twitter, which is, says a lot. Just that always connected world, I think.
Yeah, the Instagram has really taken off, hasn't it? All right, out of 10, how cool would you say you are?
Ooh, probably only a 4.
Oh, give it a break. You drove a WRX when you were 20.
Yeah, when I was 20, but now I'm 31 and I'm not as cool as I was.
And you married
then.
A woman from Kauai. You're living in Boulder. Come on. What car are you driving now?
I have a Volkswagen All-Track. It's like a wagon. I bought it earlier this year.
Is it souped up or is it just what color are we talking about?
It's just white. It's pretty stock standard, but it's got some go. It's got a little turbo in it, and I like to I still got to satiate that kid from Western Sydney.
I'm going to shift you up at least to an 8. I think a 4 was very unreasonable, and I think you could go higher than that. But anyway,
all right, thanks, Greg.
All right, if you could swap jobs with anyone else, what would it be?
Ooh, swap forever or. Just for a day or a week or...
Jeez, I should have thought more about that. I thought that was a really good question. I didn't realize I was going to get questions back on that one.
Because I think...
no, it has to be forever. Let's do it. Okay. Let's do a big one.
I was going to say like a DJ or something, but I don't think that lifestyle would be...
It's not sustainable, is it?
It's sustainable. But for a week, I think you could tour around, the Greek islands for a week, and I think that would be really fun. But
what about a movie director or producer?
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool, but I think it's quite a stressful job.
I get it.
Maybe,
But you're going to be the best in the world at that as well. So whatever you're doing, you're also going to be the best in the world at it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe a movie director, you know, making those cool movies that everyone looks forward to once every 5 years or something, you know, and then if you're the best in the world, you can kind of make your own.
Sam Spielberg.
Yeah, it's got a good ring to it.
All right, where are we up to? A chore one. Which would you rather do? Wash dishes, mow the lawn, clean the bathroom, or vacuum the house?
I think mowing the lawn, or vacuum. I like jobs, mowing the lawn is quite satisfying because you can actually see the progress, You start it up and you're like, oh, this is looking pretty good.
Ben Canute said mow the lawn, and I said, oh, that's interesting. He said, I've got the fake grass, so I could just go sit outside.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm like, all right, buddy. Yeah, so he's getting out of it, sure. Anyway, where are we up to? First job.
I was a paper boy. I used to fold the papers, the Blue Mountains Gazette, and I used to have a run of 350 papers I used to fold, and then my dad would drive us around and we'd toss them out the window to all of Lapston, which is a suburb in the Blue Mountains. So, yeah, I was responsible for everyone getting their newspaper every Wednesday.
That's awesome. Obviously before internet.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
All right, who would you want to play you in a movie of your life?
Oof. Wouldn't be a very good movie, I don't think. It'd be a bit boring.
Oh, give it a breath.
I don't know, maybe Jake Gyllenhaal or something like that.
Yeah, I like that one, yeah.
He's not quite as good looking as me.
No, he's a bit rough around the edges, isn't he? He's done very well for himself, though, old Jake. All right, what dinner could you prepare? Like, what special kind of dinner would you prepare?
I like making a good piece of salmon with some, roast veggies. Nothing too exotic, just simple, but it tastes really good, and it's usually on the menu once or twice a week.
Yeah, I bet. So, okay, on that, outside of family, if you could have 3 guests come and join you for that dinner, have you got 3 people on mind that you'd love to invite? Anyone in the world, you've made this beautiful salmon and veggies. Who are you going to invite to sit with you?
Ooh, can I swap my chef out for like Gordon Ramsay or something? Can I bring Gordon Ramsay in
bring him over, Gordon Ramsay. He's going to cook the meal and he's going to be one of your guests. Okay, go on. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Who else? Maybe The Rock.
Yeah.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Love
I just
The
think,
Rock.
He's
one of the few celebrities I follow on, the social media.
Yeah, and I just feel like he's really grounded and got good perspective, and
certainly comes across that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to fault him. Yeah.
And then maybe Michael Phelps. I just think he's probably arguably the greatest sportsman, definitely the greatest Olympian of all time. So maybe some of that excellence can rub off on me. And
Gee, you've done well there. I like that 3. I tell you what, I'll come over and be a waiter.
Yeah,
and I'll just serve you guys, just an eavesdropper with the conversation. I like that one.
Yeah, you can be the barman. Pour in the athletic brewing.
I thought you were going to say maybe you could just pull up a chair, but no, you've given me another job. All right, which decade of music is the best? Now, this is important because this affects your coolness rating in my mind. I'm just kidding. Ben Canute had to lose points last week.
Tough crowd. Probably the 90s, I think. I got 2 older brothers, so, I kind of absorbed their music interests. I just think the 90s were really good. You had Red Hot Chili Peppers, you had Smashing Pumpkins. Third Eye Blind. And then, because mum and dad are British as well, all that Brit rock and Brit pop and, Oasis and Pulp and all that.
What about the Australians? We had Powderfinger. They were kind of a 90s, weren't they?
Yeah, Powderfinger. Silverchair. Early 2000s, I think, maybe.
Were they still? No. They were 90s. Late 90s.
Yeah. I mean, the 90s has got to,
That's not bad. Not bad. It's not a bad answer.
Yeah. Maybe I bumped myself up to a 5.
No, you're already at an 8. You're now a 9. That's not bad.
Can we get to 10?
The one that hurt me the other day, again, going back to Ben, was he said early 2000s, and he named off all these rappers. And look, there's a place for some of that music. I haven't, but saying it's the greatest music of all, I said I had to take some points off him.
Too right as well. Yeah.
All right. Should pineapple be allowed on pizza?
I'm going to say yes. I like a Hawaiian pizza. I think
it's very Australian.
Yeah, and it just, when you take a bite and you get that juicy pineapple sweetness mixed in with the
ham and the saltiness of whatever. You know how salty pizzas are. Every time we have pizza, I can't sleep at night because my mouth is just especially in Boulder here where it's already dry.
Yeah.
Can't breathe. Where is somewhere you haven't been you'd like to go?
I really want to go to Egypt, actually. I'm a big, I love ancient history. And, all the ancient civilizations is so fascinating to me. I'd love to visit the tombs and all that kind of stuff, the pyramids. I just, I love it. Ancient history was my best subject in school. Through my HSC, we did the high school certificate, and ancient history was what I scored the most on.
You and I both. I'm coming on that trip. But I'd like to go. I'd like to go to Rome and stuff with you too. I'm a bit more of the Roman history.
Any ancient civilization is just fascinating to me.
Yeah, I've got a great DVD series on. It's called Engineering an Empire, and it's a box set before on Netflix and everything happened. But it's Engineering an Empire, and they go through every civilization and what they brought to the engineering masterminds that came out of each period. Yeah. It's a really good series. So if I can find it, because we're packing up the house now, if I find it, I'll let you know. You can watch it. All right, final one. Greatest movie of all time.
Ooh, greatest movie. That's a tough. There's so many good ones. Some of my more recent favorites, I think, maybe Inception by Christopher Nolan. Mm-hmm. He's one of my favorite directors. Prisoners is a really good movie with Hugh Jackman. Mm-hmm. So
another Aussie.
You've really put me on the spot, and I'm going to forget something that I wish I said.
Well, if we can come back to it. We can come back to it in a little
maybe
bit.
I'll think about some others.
When I ask you about your training and things, you'll be like, I don't really want to talk about that. I want to go back to movies. But let's do that. Let's actually move on. And first off, take us through a typical kind of training week or training day. What does that look like for you?
So I think I'm probably what you would call someone on the kind of lower volume spectrum of the triathlon. You've got those guys that do the 40-hour weeks, and then I'm kind of on that low 20s, I would say. And I just think for me, it's just what works. I don't train well. I don't race well if I'm tired all the time. So it does definitely work for some people, but not for me. But I think it's so hard because to outline a training week because it varies so much. One day I might do a 3K swim and that's it. And another day I'm doing a 4-hour ride and a 45-minute run off and a 5K swim in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I usually swim. I try and swim about 20 kilometers plus a week. And I like to do that through a lot of sessions. I don't like to go to the pool 3 times a week and do 6K. I think for me, maintaining the feel of the water is a lot more important. And I know it's a luxury to be able to go to the pool every day. Not everyone has that in their schedule and their lifestyle allows that. But as a professional athlete, I much prefer to swim 6 times a week and do 3 to 4K because
I was the same.
And you can also vary. You can have so many different sessions through the week. You can. If you're only going to the pool 3 times a week, there's only 3 sessions, one of them's got to be hard, Whereas if you're going regularly, I think, you can have a lot more variation. You can do speed, you can do endurance, strength, recovery, all that kind of stuff. So.
And it doesn't seem to, you're watching you swim is just magnificent. I always hated swimming next to you in Scott Carpenter Pool. You're just breezing up and down. Your stroke just looks immaculate. You're grabbing the water so well. For you, doing that kind of swimming, because you're so efficient, you're a bit like my wife, Laura. She was just so efficient in the water that it doesn't take as much out of you either. You can go do those workouts and probably recover better than other people that are floundering through the water like I was.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was actually chatting to Tim Reed the other day and I was saying to him, I don't mind swapping my swim sessions around in a week. If I've got a hard swim, say one afternoon, but I'm not feeling very good and I've got an easy day the next day, I don't mind doing my hard swim on an easy day because it physically doesn't take too much out of me. Besides in that hour or so that I'm swimming, I'm fine for the rest of the day. Whereas Tim was disagreeing with me vehemently saying, his easy day needs to be easy. But yeah, I think that just comes back to growing up swimming and having that, swimming's such a technique-based sport. You can't, you can get fitter in swimming to a point.
You can muscle it and get fitter to some degree, but honestly.
Yeah, I think the big gains are in technique and form and things like that.
And just having the flexibility. This is where people get stuck. If you want to improve your swim, it can be quite difficult to find that efficiency if you don't have the flexibility to start with.
Yep,
Laura always, Greg, get your elbow up. I'm like, I physically can't put my elbow where you want me to put it. My shoulder doesn't go that way, or my back, my scapula, or whatever. Yeah. And so it was always a work in progress. And I used to just get to the point, let me just go up and down and develop my heart and lungs.
Exactly. That works. To a point.
To a point. I probably harm myself a little bit. But do you have any kind of specific swim, bike, or run workouts that you love to do? Are there certain workouts, or even during your build phase, or in your specific, or even in your taper phases, any kind of workouts that stick with you?
Yeah, there's definitely some staples that I have. Like a staple swim session, preparing for something like 70.3 Worlds, I really want to work on that kind of threshold and being able to swim comfortably at threshold.
So what is that? How fast? Let's talk long course meters. What kind of times can you make it? Tell me, don't hold back. Don't be humble. Okay. Tell me something that you've done and you're proud of in a pool, in a workout.
Something that I'm proud of. I would regularly go to the pool and do, say this hard session, I'd do like 350s, kind of not max, but at the simulating the start of a race, and I'd be doing those coming in under 30, so 28, 29. Leaving on 45, I'd do 3 of those, and then I'd go into like something like 3 200s at what's called a settled race pace, and I would try and turn those over in 107s, 108s.
Long course meters. Yeah.
And then that's supposed to be, it's almost teaching your body to recover from, you've built up that lactic acid in those 50s, and then you got to go swim.
Transition.
Still reasonably hard, but you've got to clear that lactic acid while still swimming quite fast. So that's quite a tough session, and I would repeat that, 2 to 3 rounds of something like that.
I like that as a workout. That's very specific. I like that. And that shifting from anaerobic to aerobic.
Yeah, and that's a theme that kind of runs through all my training, actually. Similar in running. I might do a run session where I do 6 times 1 minute at, 250 kilometer pace. and then I'd settle into 6 or 8 minutes at goal 70.3 pace. So you've built up that lactic acid again, and then you need to try and recover while running 325 pace, which it just teaches the body to be comfortable in that race effort.
I like that. Again, I'm sorry to bring it back to me. One of my favorite run workouts was always to do something like 3 by 1 minutes all out with 1 minute recovery, 1-to-1 recovery, and then go into a 3 minute at ideal race pace.
Yeah.
So I was doing short course. So ideal race pace was usually just under 3 minute K pace or whatever. About 440 mile pace for the longer one.
Yeah.
But then go back to it and do and repeat that. And each set is 6 minutes, and I'd usually do sort of 30 minutes of that. So 5 times through or whatever.
Yeah. So it's a very similar concept.
And it feels so good when you've done that all out 1 minute. It's how good does it feel to go, oh, well, I'm not allowed to go that fast now.
Yeah,
I have to dial it back, and you just feel so rhythmic.
And that's the goal of the session, to feel good while still actually going quite fast.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I mean, it took me forever to get back to that, but those kind of workouts were fun, to do that. But what about on the bike? Do you have anything? Did you Zwift? Are you a Zwifter, or are you outside?
Yeah, I Zwift quite a lot actually. Definitely through the winter here in Boulder. Yeah. I've got my eyes on trying to get to level 50 this winter.
Whoa.
I think I'm level 46 at the moment, which sounds a lot closer than it is because it takes about 2 months to go up a level.
What is these levels? Okay, so I've joined Zwift the last few months, and I'm now up to level 13. I'm quite proud of myself with my little half-hour ride.
Yeah.
But I was riding with Jan yesterday, actually, and we text each other while we were.
Yep.
I mean, why Zwift don't have an audio thing yet, I have no idea.
Yeah,
I keep riding with my mates, and I'm texting him, and I'm out of breath trying to keep up with him. And I asked him what level is he on, and he didn't reply because that must be.
I think he's level 50. I think he's.
Is that the highest you can go?
Yep.
That's the cap.
Yep.
Oh.
So you can't go above level 50.
Why did they do that?
I don't know, actually.
Zwift, if you're listening, we want more levels.
Yeah. Well, you don't because you're only level 13.
Well, you guys, for Sam and Jan and all these other guys.
Yeah. I mean, I think it used to be, the level cap was 25.
Oh, okay. So they are building
and they raised it to 50, and you can unlock new bikes and kits and things like that. But
what bike are you riding on Zwift? Do you ride
I ride the Giant. Giant just put on their new TCR.
Do you get, as a sponsored athlete from Giant, do you get to then they just hook it up straight for you on Zwift, or how does that work?
Yeah, pretty much. But anyone, like if you've ridden enough, you earn that currency, the drops.
Yeah,
you can just go into the drop shop and purchase it. Not with real money. It's that.
No, I get it.
I
upgraded my bike to I think it's called a Bridgestone or something. That was
cool.
it.
Yeah.
But I think I'm allowed to go, and I think I've got access to something more now. So that'll make me faster because I keep getting beaten in these 20-minute sprint races, crit races that I like to do.
Yeah, they do. They do have. Certain setups are actually faster than others. I don't really pay too much attention to it.
Oh, I do.
I don't really race that often. I just use it as a training tool. And usually I have Zwift on kind of in the background and I'm watching Netflix or something.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm on there. I'm trying to get green jerseys, polka dot jerseys.
Well, I mean that's great though. That's the way it should be. Like
it's fun.
You're chasing the fun, but I've got a session.
You've actually got to prepare for something.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got a session from Matt Dixon. I can't get caught up in those games.
Well, it's funny. I have often 30 to 40 minutes before the kids wake up, and I'm like, okay, I'll quickly go down, and if there's a crit race, I'll jump into it. 5-minute warm up, start sprinting for 20 minutes, and then get off or I just jump on and go, okay, what course is it going to give me? Oh, there's a green sprint line. So the other day I was actually riding with Jan. Was it yesterday morning? It was yesterday. And so I won the green jersey, Yeah.
And
I said, I didn't know if other people could see the green jersey on my jersey, because I can see it.
Yeah.
And then I had to embarrassingly ask Jan, hey, can you see the green jersey on my Yes, Greg, good on you, mate. I'm like,
you got it.
I actually felt pretty good about it, Jan. It's the small victories now, mate.
Absolutely.
So that Zwift is fun. So did we talk about, sorry, I interrupted you. Did we talk about your favorite bike workout?
No, a favorite bike workout. And it's a staple as well that is often in my program. It's kind of a feel-good bike workout. It's something like maybe 3 or 4 times 15 minutes. And you build each 5 within the 15 minutes. So you might start off maybe just below 70.3 power, and then the middle 5 at 70.3, and then the last 5 above 70.3.
That's what Tim Reed said.
Yeah.
That's the same workout I think he said.
It's just a really good workout because it gives you a chance to feel good. You've got that first 5 minutes where you're just finding your legs, and you build into it. And I usually give myself a bit of a window. I don't often give myself like a target power, and if I'm 5 watts below, the session's ruined. I'm kind of one of those guys this is the, plus or minus 10 watts on this. And I just kind of go from there. If I'm feeling good, I'll build up to, 340 watts or something. I don't really like to talk my numbers too much because they're not quite as big as some of the other
you're
people.
also a smaller guy. I mean, more like, it's aerodynamics is most important, right? And so the more aero you are, the better. That means you can actually push less watts. And guess what? You're not using as much energy, so you have more energy for the run. So the whole idea of pushing more watts.
Yeah, is actually, it's kind of, it's not the best measure, I don't think.
No.
Like saying you pushed this amount of watts when somebody else pushed 30 watts lower is actually, you should
actually says that you're a sail in the wind, and perhaps you should work on your aerodynamics. Yeah,
I think so. But, arguably there's guys that are pushing big numbers because, I'm only 145 pounds, so I'm quite small compared to, take Sam Long,
is that
for
all
example.
you are? You're tiny.
Yeah. I'm only 5'9", so.
Is that right? You came in feeling, maybe you had really big shoes on. I thought you would have been closer to my height, but whatever, you midget. I'm just kidding. No, you're the perfect height for a triathlete, I think. Then again, there's no such thing as perfect. When you look at Sam Long and Jan, 6'4", Matt Reed was 6'5". Yeah. Then we had guys, remember Chris Hill? He won the World Series in 2001. He was tiny.
Welshie was
small.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all over the place. There is no right size to be a great athlete.
No,
it's all over the place. You mentioned earlier about your team. You've spoken about Matt Dixon, who's been coaching you for a while. Sarah, your beautiful wife. Have you got a good, that's your team? Who else is a part of your team? Because it's so important for success.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, Matt, I've been with him since 2015, so coming up, ending a 6th year now.
Wow.
And then, Sarah's obviously super supportive. And then I've got Chris Lee, not the Australian Chris Lee. That's another Chris Lee in Boulder. He's my strength coach.
The Chris Lee in Boulder? There's 2 Chris Lees in Australia. There's the good one and the bad one, remember? That's what we used to call him.
Yep. My strength and conditioning coach is something that I've kind of been doing a little more diligently this year. I think now as I'm getting into my 30s, while still young, I know people joke, but you got to stay on top of that. And I definitely think in your 30s, you are starting to perhaps be not quite as supple. And so that's becoming really important. I work with a physio here in Boulder as well, Aaron, who I see once a week. And then, just my team of sponsors as well that, Giant Bikes have been with me since 2014.
Wow. Is that Giant Bikes Australia or is that international?
Yeah, so my main dealings are with Giant Australia, but I also, I liaise with the guys here in the US as well and global. So they've been with me for a number of years now, and I've loved having their support. And then, my whole other team of sponsors as well. It's just, it does take a village. It's an individual sport, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that's...
Did they all stay with you during COVID? That was a tough year for many of them.
Yeah, they did. Yep. All my...
good on them.
Yeah. And I think that's a credit to the brands that I work with as well.
You're with Roca?
I'm with Roca, Precision Hydration,
yes.
Waddy Inc.
Yeah, Waddy.
Yep. And then Cadex, which is kind of a subsidiary of Giant. It's their kind of performance line of wheels and accessories and things like that. But through the pandemic, everyone stuck with me.
And good on them. I love to hear that.
Yeah, because it was definitely a hard time for everyone.
Of course.
Businesses as well,
except for bike manufacturers. They seem to do pretty well.
Yeah, the bikes are still sold out worldwide. You can't get anything.
No, that's true. Well, it sounds like you've got a really good team. So in terms of bodywork, people, you see a physio once a week. Are you getting much massage or anything like that?
Yeah, so my physio does a lot of manual work. I actually respond really well to trigger point needling.
It's the best, isn't it? Yeah.
I actually prefer that to massage. Mm-hmm. So if I've got a spot that needs clearing out, it's the trigger point needling. And that's the, for people listening, it's quite painful. It's the one where they repetitively take it out and keep hitting that trigger point, hence the name trigger point needling. It's not that one where they stick it in and leave it for 10 minutes, which is quite relaxing. This one is, I'm wriggling all over the table. And
Laura and I couldn't agree. Yep. We use Christine Bell right across the lake over here, another Aussie who's here, and she's in Boulder. And honestly, the dry needling, the best.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst when you're doing it,
Yeah.
but the best for just getting rid of those niggles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm usually leaving in quite a sweaty mess after that session.
I'm quite embarrassed actually when I'm lying on the table and the table's soaked with sweat. I got better at it. Are you getting better at it though? You can get in there and just, okay.
Yeah, and so I've been doing it a couple of years now, and when I first was doing the trigger point needling, it would take me, I'd be sore for 2 to 3 days after.
Oh, wow.
But now, I can have a session and I can go and do a hard run an hour later and
Oh, no way. I couldn't do that. I can't walk after it. But an hour later, I'm like, the next morning when I wake up, that's why I always book it at like 4 or 5 o'clock because I'm useless.
Yep.
Absolutely useless after it. But the next morning I get up and I'm like,
feeling great. Yeah.
My calf's fine or my hip's fine or whatever's going on me. No, that's awesome. Are you somebody that preparing for events and things, are you someone who naturally sort of visualizes events and prepares yourself in your mind that way? Do you plan it out, I guess, or do you work on that side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Usually, you look at a race and all the possibilities of how it's going to play out and what's in the best interest for me as an athlete. So I think visualization is very important, running through it in your head. And I think I use it also as a tool to calm my nerves and anxiety as well. It can be quite easy to get overwhelmed with all the little things that you have to take care of in a triathlon because there's quite a lot of, things, nutrition and all that kind of stuff. And I think, breaking it down in your head, having that visualization is really important.
I like that you touch on, because I think professional athletes to some degree are fairly anxious people, anxiety. I said this to my younger brother the other day. I said, I struggle with a bit of anxiety. Not struggle, but I have anxiety. Yeah. He said, you have anxiety? I was like, well, yeah, but I've had to learn how to manage and use it as a fuel. Yeah. It's a necessary to get me out of bed and do the work I need to get done.
Absolutely.
And I explained to him the fact that I see anxiety as there's a problem and it needs to be solved. Mm-hmm. And that's where you're talking about the visualizing. There's a problem in the sense that if it feels like a mess, there's so many things I've got to take care of. And if you can visualize it, it helps you just put everything in its right place.
Yeah. And I think touching on that anxiety, there is definitely an optimum arousal for racing and things.
Yes.
It can go overboard and you can freeze up and it can become very overwhelming. But I think having anxiety, like you said, it is a fuel and it is necessary and it's what makes us successful because if you weren't anxious or nervous you wouldn't care about it.
Exactly. I know but it is one of the Laura was always very good for me at managing all of that because I tended to be a bit more I wouldn't say emotional, that seems a bit wrong, but I definitely was the one that would get very anxious and she used things like, and I've said it on this show so you've probably heard it before, but basically I'd say, are you nervous? And she'd say, no, I'm excited. And just that word alone shifts it from that being too anxious to just going, okay, no, I'm excited about it. This is a game. It changes it to a game. It changes it to play.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that was important. I think it was a really good lesson for me to learn. All right, mate. Well, I want to keep shifting this show along. This has been fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, it's been great.
You should not have imposter syndrome. You speak well. You've had a remarkable story. So I want to finish up with 2 big questions, all right? So first one, what is one tip you have for people on how to optimize their life? Ooh. Put you on the spot. Boom.
Yeah. It's something that I've always tried to practice and preach it a lot is find balance in your life. I think it's can be easy to tie your identity to your career or your hobby or a certain aspect of your life. And I think it's important to find your own identity outside of, and for me, I guess as an example is, try not to tie my identity to triathlon and be a professional athlete. And that's not always as easy as I'm making it out to sound
it's
right
very
now.
Difficult.
And,
it's very difficult.
I kind of touched on it earlier in the show with kind of going through those mental health issues. Yeah. When I didn't have triathlon, I almost felt a little bit lost.
Well, that's what happens when you retire.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important to have other irons in the fire and other things that light your passions and things like that. And
so for you, what is that? That's movies and, it's your wife, Sarah.
Yeah,
you've got a few
things. I think, something relationships are really important to me, and friendships, and having
you got to invest in those, don't you?
Yeah,
you actually have to make an effort.
And I haven't always been the best at doing that through my early 20s when I did think triathlon was everything, you know, and I think now in my wise old 30s, you know, I'm looking back on some of those things that I didn't perhaps do very well. So relationships are super important to me, and my family, my brothers, my mum and my dad, and Sarah. So
that's good on you. I think the relationship side of things became even more important during that COVID. For me, that was, you know, now I talk to my mum probably every second day, right? Yep. You know, she's in Australia. Hopefully we can see each other soon. And my brothers, I speak to them so much more. And I found COVID, as much as it was bad and lockdowns, and the blessing there was that it actually made my relationship stronger with family. I made more of an effort.
Yeah.
And now I have that routine in my life.
Yeah,
it's become
absolutely.
a thing. Yeah.
I mean, if there was something good that did come out of COVID, it was that it did bring people together, because
even though we were kept apart, right?
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I love the expression, nothing's ever too bad that there's nothing good. You know, while it can seem like, you know, COVID was terrible, but for a lot of people, there was good things like reconnecting with family and friends.
Slowing down and being in the moment. I remember walking with Laura. We were walking down the street, and this must have been in about May or June of, you know, 2020. And I said to Laura, this is the first time in my life where I haven't been planning and thinking forward. Yeah. Like I'm a real forward planner. And I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't plan anything. I can't think forward because I don't know when the world's awake. Yeah. And so I'm right here right now. It's the first time. I'd never had that before. And it was almost like this an awakening experience, right? Where I'm like walking down the road with the kids, actually looking at the flowers. Yeah, like, I mean, it sounds so crazy.
Stopping and smelling.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. Yeah. And for me, that was one of the great takeaways from that year, was to stop for a moment, stop looking so far forward, stop pushing and just be. And that was great. So I like your answer of balance, mate. I think it's fantastic. All right, next one. And you kind of answered this a bit earlier in the rapid fire, but let's see what you come up with. If you could sit and have a coffee with any living person, who would it be and why?
Ooh. I mean, I did kind of touch on it. It probably would be, I know I invited him to dinner, but it probably would be Michael Phelps, I think.
Well, why don't you just have the dinner? Have all three of them.
Yeah, but I mean, just his excellence and what drove him.
Yeah, we'll have to line that up. I'm sure somebody listening knows Michael Phelps. I'm sure we're 1 degree away. There's no way we don't.
Hopefully. And maybe I can absorb some of his excellence through osmosis or something. Just
rub shoulders. Suddenly you're swimming a couple of minutes faster. Mate, what's next? That was awesome. You've got these couple of races. And then,
so LA Tri in 3 weeks, and then Oceanside. And then that might be it for the year for me, depending on if I can do Daytona or not. I might have to leave the country before the race. I mean, I'll do those 2 races and then see what happens after that.
All right. Well, if any immigration lawyers listening to this, Sam Appo needs to stay a couple of extra days to do Daytona, and he needs to probably work on his green card. So American immigration people, contact me. I'll put you in touch with Sam. We'll just reach out to him on his... what are you doing? Instagram messages.
That's the best way.
Mate. Sam, this was absolutely fantastic, mate. I'm so glad you were able to come up the road and join me here. This has been brilliant.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me. And it's great to do it in person. And
so great.
I feel like you can really vibe with each other, and it is just like having a beer with a friend.
Yeah.
People are listening in, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Well, and for everybody listening, we just got to thank you for listening to us. Wrap it on. That was fantastic. You'll be able to check out all the show notes and timestamps and all the coupon codes at bennettendurance.com/media. All right, Sam, that was fantastic, mate. Cheers.
Thanks, Greg. Cheers.
Thanks a lot for listening to Be With Champions. If you enjoyed the show, your support would truly be appreciated. You can visit the Be With Champions Patreon page, or you can subscribe with your podcast app of choice. Don't miss the next episode, so subscribe and be notified. For show notes, if you want to know more, please visit bennettendurance.com. I'm Phil Liggett, and on behalf of Greg Bennett, here's to the next time, and I hope you will join Greg again very soon.